Welcome to Your Partner in Property, the podcast for investors who want clarity, confidence, and better results from their property management experience. I'm Kelly, Director of Hunter Property Management, and each episode we unpack key things every property investor should know, from the true cost of cheap fees and the power of AI to compliance, tenant retention, and how smart systems protect your investment long term. If you're looking to make more informed decisions and get the most out of your portfolio, you're in the right place. Let's get to it.
Hello.
Welcome to Your Partner in Property. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to be here with me.
Wouldn't do it for anybody else.
I know. She's a one-time wonder. She'll never be on a podcast again.
Well, I was on one once, but that never came to light.
No, well, you were on another one with me, and then it just was that the one that never came to light? It was me.
You just wanted
Anyway,
to get me up out of bed early in the
yeah, I
morning.
did. I just wanted to waste your time.
Mm, I love it.
Anyway, I would love to hear and for you to have you kind of explain a bit about you and how long you've been in property management for, and just introduce yourself to someone who knows nothing about Cathy.
Um, well, my government name is
My Centrelink number is.
but no, I am Cathy Simpson, director. I wear many other hats under my business, which is Simpson Property Management. I have had my business now for just over 2 years, been in property management 25 years, it was at the end of May. So I've been around the traps for a while,
Just a little while.
just a little while. That's right.
You're,
Is that what you asked?
yeah, you've been in, I was just trying to collect my thoughts. You've been in property management longer than almost my whole life.
No, we've
Like,
had this
within
discussion.
reason, like you've been in property management far longer than I was even, like I wasn't even at school yet when you started property
Yeah, we
management, like
don't say that. I feel
primary
like
school.
I
So
know.
Cathy is like my, I was gonna say nugget of knowledge, but it's like so much bigger than a nugget. She's like the
Mm.
go-to gal for all the hard shit.
See, I love that stuff though, because it
Yeah.
keeps challenging me. I love thinking about different scenarios and things that might not happen to me for a long time or ever, and then you all of a sudden find yourself in
I
these
know.
situations.
I'm like 10 years in and I'm like, what do you think about this? She's like, oh, I've done this 10 times. And I'm like, this is new territory. But I think that's property management, right? Like new territory like just comes all the time. And I think it's a great job for people who are wanting something that's ever changing and it's not so repetitive, because that's what I find exactly it is. There's always a new challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. And I've always said the day that I stop learning is the day that I stop getting joy out of doing what I do will be the day that I kind of go, you know what? I might just go and holiday in Jamaica for the rest of my life.
Forever.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing that I wanting to be asking everybody who comes on the podcast is if you could change one thing about the property management industry,
Mhm.
what would you change?
I think we're a prime example. Yourself, myself, and one of our industry colleagues, Pat, we've got a group chat and we are so not, we don't compete with each other, even though you and Pat, you've got relatively the same markets.
Yeah.
It leads me into this air of arrogance, this air of competition, this air of I'm not going to help that person because they're competition.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think that time is done in our marketplace. Collaboration is definitely key, especially as individual business owners. We've got our niches, we've got our area of expertise, we've got that side of it. To me, I think that competition, it's friendly to have competition, but I might go into an appraisal and miss out on it due to one thing or another, and they'll tell me who they go with. And you know what? My door's always open. If you need my help, if you need somebody to run ideas past, I'm always happy to sort of help. Um, that's probably one thing that I'd really change is that arrogance.
Yeah. Just the attitude towards the industry. I think it has, in my 10 years, always been an industry where there has been competition, and it's like if your friend works down the road, you don't talk to them.
Mhm,
And I think for me as well, when I opened my business, I just wanted none of that. Like, why
mm,
would we not be, like you said, industry colleagues more than enemies with the people who are like going through the same things as us day in and day out? And there has, I think, I've seen a really big shift over the last 2 years
mhm.
of that mindset, but there is also a lot of people who are still way behind on that. And so it would be, yeah, it would be definitely a place to be.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I'll occasionally reach out to another industry colleague and say, hey, let's catch up, or I might be speaking to somebody, on a call or an email or something, and I might say, hey, we haven't caught up before a while, whatever, and let's go and have a coffee. Let's go and,
Do you think
let's,
that some of that animosity stems from like insecurity?
yeah, I also think it stems back to, depending on which office you have been in, the culture that's within that
Yeah.
office. Not only is there the, you know, sales versus PM mentality, but there's also the PM versus PM throw each other under the bus type mentality. And I'm just not about that.
No.
Um, I'm about problem solving. I'm about, okay, we've got this situation. What are our options? How do we get to the result that we want? And a lot of people do see that as confrontational, but I feel having open and honest communication helps solve those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's roll off that into our topic today, which kind of goes hand in hand, which is
Mm-hmm,
big business versus boutique. So I
mm-hmm,
thought that this would be good to chat with you about because you had spent, from my understanding, quite a lot of time in a franchise business, and now
mm-hmm,
you've gone out on your own
mm-hmm,
to your own boutique property management only company. And I'm sure prior to even, your last place of work before your business, you were in other businesses. So I thought someone who's been in the industry for so long would be the perfect person to talk about, what are the pros and cons of big business versus boutique, and what's kind of the way that someone should decide which way to go if they're a bit confused, because I know that a lot of landlords that I'm talking with don't even really know that property management only companies are a thing, but I am seeing more and more of them at the moment, and I could understand how that might be a bit confusing for some people.
Yeah, totally. I've assisted in starting property management departments and things, and been part of some, really big organizations that did teach me a lot. Um, I knew when I started my business that I didn't want to ever be a big moving wheel. I wanted to, boutique gets so used and bandied about. It's just obviously potentially cliche, but I think,
Yeah, and look, I don't use a reference like the boutique reference to what I'm doing, but I feel like it's a
mm,
good way to just kind of
encompass that.
separate the two,
Mm,
yeah, to explain.
yeah. Um, I suppose it comes down to communication and quality of property over portfolio growth. And that has sometimes potentially been to my financial detriment, because I see my long term goal is to build a business and a company that, you see the brand, you see what we're about, and it's based on a strong connection, not only to our landlords, our tenants, but also our trades. And that's where I suppose my strength lies, in that, 99.9% of my referrals come purely from word of mouth. I've had, luckily enough, a number of people reach me through um, ChatGPT. They've, researched that way.
And look, that's a
And
whole topic in itself, is the fact that ChatGPT has been used as a Google search engine to sift through the data and the confusion for overwhelmed investors and find the best person in the area or the best, group of people in the area to be considering to look after your investment.
absolutely. And, I have lost potential management opportunities because I'm not a big, organization. I don't have multiple staff members. In saying that, I've got an administration assistant, and she's been with me actually a year today. And my business wouldn't be where it's at without her. She's also big and big into the communication piece. And my assistant property manager that's been with me for a couple of weeks now, she's hit the ground running. She already had her assistant agent certification, so was able to really hit the ground running for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like a lot of people will see a franchise's branding and automatically trust them because maybe they've had something to do with that franchise in the past, and I don't mean the individual agency, but the greater brand. It maybe they've
mhm,
had an experience in Queensland with a particular franchise like a Ray White, and then in Sydney, and they kind of group them all together.
mm,
Something I want to break down today is that it's not that big business is bad. I think that big business is actually small business in a way at the end of the day as well, because it comes down to the individual people running the individual franchise.
mhm,
I think there is a group of people who do like to stick to the one umbrella, but I
mhm.
actually think you've got to look into what the individual franchisee is doing and how they're representing themselves in their departments.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think as well, you will usually find in the bigger organizations, you'll have this one person that is an absolute font of knowledge, knows everything about the market, the properties, and there's that go-to person. Um, I so not only just landlords, tenants, and tradespeople. I've got a lot of industry colleagues that will come to me to bounce ideas off or talk to me around. They've got these scenarios, kind of like what we do, Kel. But to me, the one big thing that I feel like I've had throughout that process is having that somebody in that office that you can bounce ideas off. So when I started the business, I suppose, and knew that I wanted to, get to a certain point, not that I'm divulging what that number is that I want to get towards, but I think ultimately surrounding yourself with good people is really, really important. So whether it is in a franchise, whether it is in a smaller business, I really think that it's important. And I actually have had this conversation many a time in that I don't mean yes people. I mean people that are going to challenge you and actually provide you with growth potential. And again, whether that is in a franchise model or a smaller office, like you say, it's definitely more around, let's face it, the bums on seats that are going to create that
Yeah.
environment.
I think you've got to look at, rather than looking at a whole franchise company under one umbrella nationwide, I think you've really got to pay attention to how they're representing their like property management division and the people who are sitting in that company, absolutely, because that is different from every single franchisee, like nationwide. And I feel like the risk doesn't come in engaging big business, but I think the risk comes in not looking further into that at who's sitting in the seats, like you said, because if you're just going for the brand, I think you'll find that you'll be disappointed. But if you actually look at the knowledge that the people have who are working in that department, that's a surefire way to make sure that you're actually going to be happy with the decision that you make.
Oh, totally. But also come with those circumstances comes opportunity. I actually met up with one of my landlords that I've managed properties for going on 17 years now. And, we're having the conversation this morning because I introduced him to Heidi and I sort of said, we started our relationship, our business relationship by somebody went on leave. He and I ended up talking. He, we just started talking over the period of a couple of weeks, and then eventually went, "No, you're my person. You're
Yeah.
my contact. You're my font of knowledge. And for 17 years, he has literally followed me and been one of my biggest advocates.
Yeah, it's definitely an opportunity for property managers in themselves who also should have a look at, who's inside the department and who they want to work with and be, with most days of their life
Mhm,
and learn from and grow with.
mhm.
Like I said, you never know what opportunity might come from that. So I think it's just kind of stripping down the pros and cons of big business and small business because, like I said before, I think they generally get a like they get a bad rap in this
Mhm.
era of small PM businesses coming up. But that being said, I think the way in which you should compare small business and big business should be exactly the same with the experience and the integrity and the values that each department has, regardless of where they're coming from.
Yeah, but not even those values from an, ethical, moral point of view, but a financial one as well.
Yeah.
What experience have they got dealing with XYZ scenarios? I mean, from that perspective, Kel, what made you decide to not join a big brand and just start your own thing? Like, you
Mm,
know,
yeah, I think I had a lot of conversations when starting my business with lots of different people who were referring me business, just kind of spitballing. And there was a, kind of like a franchise that I was going to consider that was kind of targeted at people like us, just solo or small company. But you could grow big with them as well. But they were kind of the first one I'd seen come out that were targeting just the solo person who wanted to make something for themselves. And it honestly comes down to a conversation I had with someone at like a development company I was working with who said to me, "Look, I've opened 3 or 4 agencies in the past, and if I had my day again, what I would do is I would just go out and create my own brand." So I honestly just trusted them enough, and I'd had so many different conversations with so many different people that that's where I landed on. And again, I feel like if I went with a franchise, it wouldn't mean that I was any less, like I should have been a lesser choice, and it probably would have gotten me more reach. But it also come with a huge financial um, commitment from me if I went that way. I would have to pay this franchise money every single month. And I didn't know if my business was even going to grow at that point. So it was a bit too committal for me.
yeah, no, I hear you as well, and that's why I was looking at, other names and trying to be all fancy and that sort of thing. And then I just woke up one day and went, people know me, people know what I do,
Yeah.
people know what it's about. I think the business name sort of speaks for itself. People aren't going to be wondering, well, what the hell do they do?
Yeah, that's why I chose my name because it's the most searchable thing ever. Like you want a property manager in the Hunter Property Management. Like
Yeah,
it's a
makes
very
sense.
on purpose choice.
Yeah.
So that being said, franchises obviously have big networks and often more resources in a way with training, tech, marketing. Do you feel like that actually creates better outcomes for landlords?
Wholly? No.
No.
Um, I think it comes down to the individual circumstance and what they want that outcome to be, right? So whether you're boutique or a big brand, it's going to come down to the person you're dealing with problem solving skills. It's going to come down to their knowledge base. It's going to come down to also the willingness of all parties to potentially give a little to come to a solution.
Yeah.
So, short answer is, I don't think it's not going to matter either way.
Yeah. I think as well, it comes down to the decision maker's willingness to invest in their company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you'll find that if they're in business for the right reasons, then they're investing in their tech anyway, whether they're big or small business. And
Yeah, and
business might have more accessibility to things that are maybe provided to them at a discount because the wider umbrella brand has it, but it doesn't mean that a small business is not investing in the same technology. Like I very heavily invest in new things that are evolving that I believe will move
Yeah,
the needle for my clients. And I'm happy to spend the money on that if it means that they're gonna get a better outcome and I'm gonna be able to achieve like a higher result for them or make the workload of my staff more efficient and then in turn
yeah.
like
No,
serve the tenants and the landlords better.
I absolutely get that. And I think you've also opened my eyes up to certain forms of technology, you know.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I'm a bit of a stickler for how certain things are done. And not that I have trepidation over using technology. I think, in my opinion, there are some forms of technology, which is probably a different podcast altogether.
Yeah.
Technology can also create lazy property managers.
Yeah, I don't think you need every bell and whistle that comes out, don't get me wrong. But I think in terms of like this business, big business having access to more things, it's not always the truth.
No, I don't. And that's the thing. I don't necessarily think a lot of the places they may have access to it, but in terms of cost effectiveness or results for a landlord, I don't think that there's any correlation
Mhm.
between those things.
The last thing is kind of looking forward. Do you feel as though, I feel like we've kind of got a bit of a divide, right? You've got companies, whether they're, what do you call it? Like their own brands.
Independent.
Independent, that's what I suppose we've got this movement of like independent and franchises. And look, they can have the same goal. You've got some independent companies who are just going guns blazing for as many properties as possible. And again, I think this is why it's good to strip back, big business and boutique are not always what you would initially think they are head and head. But I think moving forward, do you think that we're going to see more people like you and I coming out, starting their own businesses, staying small to give that customized service? Or do you think that they are going to kind of burn out because they're sick of being, undercut by the big businesses who want to just go for those masses? And
Mm-hmm.
there's just going to be these kind of bulldog companies who kind of take over the space, if you know what I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think, and I'm hoping that there will be other, independents that pop up because I think it'd be for the betterment of our industry. I
mean?
think around here anyway, in Newcastle, sort of Lake Macquarie, and obviously the Hunter. Um, One thing that I was asked early on in the piece, is there anything that I would either do differently or I regret? And I'm like, I don't live my life in regrets, but one thing that I wish I did do was sort of start sooner. So I think if anybody is ever thinking about starting their own business, just do it. And I think having your own business, you think about being a property manager differently. So,
Something someone said to me was if you're going to start on your own, you've just got to make sure that you are reasonably good at marketing or at least have some small interest in it. So you can market yourself. You've got to be interested or relatively good at BDM so you can grow. And you've got to be obviously a good property manager. So I think there were the three key things that if you had absolutely no interest, if you're only good at property management and you were no good at marketing or BDM, like you'd probably struggle because you need business coming in the door, but you do. Your mindset is like constantly evolving because you just have to make it work, right?
yeah, totally. Or you make decisions based on the long term goal, not on a short term gain.
Yeah.
So, something that might sound like a good idea, sleep on it. Make a decision in the morning. Don't make rash decisions. Don't make a decision because you feel like that's what you should be doing. Do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And looking ahead, I feel like we will have big business and small business just as we do now, but sometimes it does concern me seeing the amount of people who are just willing to offload their portfolio to someone who is just bulldogging the numbers. And look, that's another episode I've got coming soon is what happens when you have found your property as a part of a rent roll sale. because I feel like that would be a really confusing time for a landlord. And look, I
Mhm.
feel like it could be a positive in the fact that it's been purchased by someone who does want a property management department and sold by someone who's obviously no longer committed to what they're doing. But at the same time, you could find yourself caught up in big business who just sees numbers, 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 so that once they want to retire, they can sell and get a big chunk of cash. So that'll be another episode I have coming up because it's something that I want to strip back the layers on as well.
Mm. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me about that. It really was important to me to kind of chat about independence and franchises and business versus small business to kind of strip it back and help people, understand what should be involved in their decision making.
Yeah, perfect. No, I absolutely agree. And I think as well that there are so many um, avenues that, property managers can go down. Our skill sets are so wide and varied that we can utilize them in different aspects and different jobs and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I still love what we do, get to see and chat to some great people. And I'm not just saying that to be airy fairy, but I think there's no other job
Cathy's
that you
not
have.
really airy fairy. I don't know if anyone's picked up on that, but she's not an airy fairy gal.
No, I'm definitely not. I'm as subtle as a sledgehammer, I've been told. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a great job. And yeah, there's not a lot of jobs that have such diversity. And, this afternoon we've got an admin day in the office, tomorrow out doing routines. Actually, we're coming up your way. Um, but yeah, it's a great job that we get to do a lot of varied things. And anybody that's thinking about getting into it, actually, I might know somebody that's looking for somebody,
I'm hiring.
Kel.
I'm
Yeah.
hiring.
Oh, I'm Pat. I'm Pat.
And Pat, if you want a job in property management, we've got somebody for you.
We'll help
We've
interview
got a
them for
job
Pat.
for you. Sorry. If I had somebody for me, I wouldn't be hiring. Oh dear.
I love it. I love it.